Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March 2020 virtual meeting for the Fort Worth Astronomical Society. I am your president, Chris Monthy. It's not really a great way to start this off. I was hoping to do something like this in stages, but with the COVID-19 virus, we're having to make do as best we can. So instead of having our usual meeting at the UNT Health Sciences Center in Fort Worth, we're doing a virtual meeting. UNT has decided to cancel all rented rooms up until May, so the room that we typically use is not available for us. This is really our only option at this time. And at the same time, we also have a lot of club members who are in high-risk groups. So in order to protect them, we are self-quarantining, we are practicing social isolation. For some of us introverts, that's not really much of a change, but we do enjoy camaraderie together, and we do enjoy coming together for star parties, for our club meetings, for the astrophotography special interest group and things like that. And we're not able to do that. I'm hoping that this is kind of a prototype that we can do and use for further testing, further activities. And, well, let's just get started. So, got everything set up. Let's see how this works. Again, this is our March 17th meeting. Typically, I'll go ahead and do a presentation for the meeting. For anyone new who's watching, our procedure is usually to start with the presentation, to go over, talk about the club, and see what's going on. I'm actually broadcasting from my house, so it's a little bit noisy. Oops. Technical difficulties. There we go. So, who is the Fort Worth Astronomical Association? We were established in 1949 by Miss Charlie Mary Noble, for whom the Noble Planetarium at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History is named. We are one of the first adult amateur astronomy clubs in the United States. We were originally formed as a children's club, and then the parents decided, well, we want to try some of that too. And so the club went to the adults. We are one of the larger clubs in the United States. We have over 140 members at this time, and we are a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. So any money that you do donate to us, you can take that off your taxes. And our mission, we've just changed our mission statement to make it more encompassing, to actively promote the science of astronomy through outreach and education, such as free public star parties, other public events, museum presentations, and school presentations, to encourage and coordinate the activities of other groups interested in astronomy, to foster observational work and research among our members, and to foster craftsmanship in the construction of astronomical instruments, and to make such instruments available for the use of its members to the extent practical. We were formed for educational and scientific purposes for all individuals and all groups for the primary purpose of developing and implementing programs designed to increase the awareness and knowledge of astronomy for all interested individuals, but specifically for those living in and around Tarrant County, Texas. Providing the opportunity for those individuals to pursue the science of astronomy in a dark sky observation site using club-owned equipment, and providing an opportunity for all club members and guests to share their experiences and discoveries. So, welcome to, again, the first virtual meeting of the Fort Worth Astronomical Society, courtesy of the COVID-19 coronavirus. So remember, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and if possible, self-quarantine. So limit your exposure. So for you new people tuning in right now, let me talk a little bit about some of the things that we have available in the club or will be available once this period is over. We have two dark sky sites. One is in Wise County. The other one is in Stevens County. The one in Wise County is at a private nature reserve. It's fairly isolated. It's quite nice. And Star Ranch in Stevens County is very dark skies, but facilities there are limited. So if you like power, if you like a nice working toilet, we go to Thompson. To the Wise County site. If you just want really, really dark skies, you go to Star Ranch. Upcoming star parties. This is the point in the presentation where we talk about all the upcoming events. So we talk about going out to Dinosaur Valley. We talk about the Tandy Hills Nature Center. Tandy Hills Nature Preserve? No, Tandy Hills Natural Area. Sorry, Tandy Hills Natural Area. We're not going to be doing that anymore for the foreseeable future. Probably we would like to start this up again in the summer, but for now, because we're limiting the size of groups, it's not really a good idea to have 100, 250, or 200 people at a star party, even if it is out in the open. So we're canceling the star parties until further notice. So why are we doing this? COVID-19 is a novel coronavirus. It has not been in the human population before, so we don't have any immunity to it whatsoever. It stays in the environment a lot longer than the flu or the cold. It can stay on plastic for several days, metal even longer. I think one of the estimates was in low temperatures and high humidities, it can stay on surfaces for 20 days. So its surfaces remain infectious for a long period of time. Mortality rates are 10 times higher than influenza. Even though influenza is much more widespread, it doesn't kill as many people percentage-wise as this new coronavirus does. And people over 60 and those with medical conditions, such as immunocompromised individuals, cardiovascular disease, respiratory illnesses, they're much more likely to suffer under this disease than young people. So one reason why we're doing self-quarantine, one reason why we're doing the social isolation practices right now is because Fort Worth has just over 2 million people in our metro area, not counting Dallas. But we only have just a little bit more than 350 beds in intensive care units. So those beds are needed all the time. And if they're filled with patients who have pneumonia, then other people aren't going to be able to get the care that they need. So we need to flatten the curve. We need to limit the number of people who are exposed, and we need to limit the number of people who have severe reactions to the exposure so that we can treat them as opposed to leaving them on hospital beds with pneumonia. It's not a good way to go. So we have a large number of our club members who are over the age of 60. We have a large number who have various cardiovascular diseases, high blood pressure, things like that. So we want to limit their exposure as well. We want them to stay safe. We want them to stay healthy. So that's yet another reason why we're canceling meetings. So the overall mortality rate. This is what we got from China, the numbers as of, I think, about a week ago or so. People who are 80% plus, people who are 80 years of age or higher, it's almost 15% mortality rate. It goes down quite a bit. Even at age 50 to 59, it's 1.3%. The flu, again, 0.1% fatality rate overall. So what we're looking at right now is a disease that's 10, maybe even 20 times more fatal than the flu is. So it is serious. So far, no deaths of children have been reported under 9. So that's why we're doing this. Let's go on to some happier stuff, I guess, to the typical part of the presentation where I talk about the upcoming astronomical events. Not everybody knows what's going on. Not everybody knows what's happening in the sky. So this is a time when I like to talk about what's coming up, what events to look for, something interesting that's happening, and we go over it very briefly, but enough that everybody knows. So today's March 17th. We have a couple more days until March 20th. We have the March equinox, the spring equinox. So the day will be equal to the night in length, and the nights just start getting shorter and shorter and shorter, but the spring sky is still interesting. So the problem with us here right now is we have cloudy skies and we have rain, and we have rain for the foreseeable future well into next week. So we're not going to be able to see this. Next one is the new moon. Again, March 24th, it's probably going to be cloudy and rainy. which is really too bad because the new moon is the best time to go out to one of the dark sky sites and see some deep sky objects. The moon lights up the sky quite a bit, so we don't typically go out on full moons to look at anything. Even the moon is very, very bright to see during a full moon, so we like to wait until its first quarter or well, various phases, just as long as it's not full. And on March 24th, we have Mercury at the greatest western elongation. So what this means is that if you go out right before sunset and you look out towards the eastern horizon, you may be able to see Mercury just as a little bright dot above and to the side of where the sun is going to come up. Unfortunately, again, it's cloudy. So we'll see what next week brings. And on the same day, March 24th, we have Venus at its greatest eastern elongation. So this means the western sky. So right after sunset, you'll see Venus way up high, very, very bright. And you've probably been noticing Venus. Well, let me rephrase that. Last week, you probably noticed Venus before it got nice and cloudy. It's up in the western sky soon after sunset. It's really, really visible. And then it sets just a couple hours later. April 8th, full moon, supermoon. To be honest, not many of us really care that it's a supermoon. It's a little bit bigger than a regular full moon. It's just a couple of percentage points bigger. It's not very noticeable, but people like to talk about it and make a big deal out of it. So as long as it brings them into astronomy, that's fine. So this full moon in this month is known by the Native Americans as the full pink moon because the pink moss, the wild ground phlox, starts to come up in our more northerly climates. We don't typically see it this far south in Texas unless it's in someone's garden. It's also the the sprouting grass moon, the growing moon, and the egg moon. And along the Pacific Northwest, it's also called the full fish moon because the shad like to swim upstream and start to spawn about this time. And this is our third of 4 supermoons for this year. So again, a little bit bigger. If you're seeing it from here, it's not terribly noticeable. On April 22nd and 23rd, we have the Lyrids meteor shower. So this is usually not a very strong one, but it tends to produce fairly bright ones. Left behind by comet C1861 G1 Thatcher. So we name comets by the year that they're found. So it's C/year. G1 indicates the order that it was found, and then it gets a name by whoever discovered it. So it usually runs from April 16th to 25th, and it peaks on the 22nd, the night of the 22nd and morning of the 23rd. So what we typically do is go out to a dark sky site so we can get the darkest skies possible. And the shower starts not too long after sunset, but typically it gets much more pronounced after midnight. And that's because the side of the Earth that you're on after midnight is now pushing into the debris stream of the comet, so you see more meteors per hour than you otherwise would. And because we have a new moon, it will be fairly dark, so hopefully it'll be a good show. And on April 23rd, the new moon. So there we are. And again, good time to go out. So those are our events. Prime Focus. George Lutch is our editor. And if you have any photos, articles, interesting things to send to George, please go ahead and forward it to him off of the e-group. And he'll go ahead and add it to next month's newsletter. So George produces this every month. Every month there's something new, there's something interesting. Thank you very much, George. We greatly do appreciate it. Okay, at this point is usually the time when we have a presentation, but because this is kind of last notice, we're not able to get a guest speaker, and I don't have a presentation that I can pull out that is complete. Something that we have considered doing is recording our presentations. We were talking about that at the last meeting and at the in between and at the board meeting, that it would be feasible to record a presentation and then put it up on YouTube for people to see. some of the kind of some of the interesting presentations that we have. We have club members who talk about they do trip reports where they've been for astronomical events. We have members who give reports on space probes and the things they saw and interesting discoveries. We have guest speakers who come in from outside the club. We have we've had graduate students from TCU come and talk about some of the interesting research that they're doing, big data using the Gaia probes, looking at star clusters, things like that. So we always have something new, something interesting. I gave a presentation on meteorites in January. So that wasn't recorded, but what I am considering doing now is redoing that presentation, recording it, and releasing it as a presentation on YouTube on our channel. This way we can get more content in front of people, and it's just additional information, and it's things that we find interesting. And ideally, it's things that the public would find interesting as well. Some of it is very, very technical information. The presentations by the TCU grad students about the Gaia probes, it was very, very technical, but they put it out in a way that's really, really understandable, that you can see what they're doing with the data. They're taking it, they're running it through machine learning systems, and they're pulling out information that we really had no idea about. We're changing the way we see things based on this new information and how we can process it. It's things to learn, and every time I learn something, I'm happy. I'm always happy to know more today than I knew yesterday, and I want to know more tomorrow than I knew today. So once we're done with the presentation, we go on to club business. So the club business portion is usually after a break as well. We're not going to do a break. We're just going to go right through. So club business, we talk about things that have to do with the club. So let's go ahead and start on that. Typically, we'll talk about Star Ranch and what's going on. And right now, it's wet, muddy, and cloudy, so I'd recommend not going out there. Thompson Foundation, it is probably wet as well and cloudy, and there's not much of a point going out there. One of the things that we do talk about is to make sure that when you're moving your car out there, make sure your lights are on, especially on the dam road. The reason is people walk across the road, across the dam to get to the restrooms, and they need to be able to see you. So make sure that your lights are on, and also please notify someone on the e-group that you are going out. This is a private nature reserve. It is located out in the middle of nowhere, Wise County. It used to be you turned off a road, drove a couple miles down a dirt road, turned on another dirt road, kept turning on dirt roads, and eventually you get to the gate. Now it's paved almost to the dark sky site, and then you turn off on a dirt road and turn off again. So it's a little bit easier to get there, but there are times when no one is out there for 2 weeks at a time. If you go out there and you haven't let anyone know, and you have a problem with your car, there may not be cell coverage, and somebody may not come by for a bit, so you may be stuck for a while. So whenever you go out to a dark sky site, whenever you're going out observing to a remote site, it's always a good idea to let somebody know. If you do it on the e-group, then everybody knows what's going on, and often someone will say, hey, I want to come too, and they'll show up as well. Our spring picnic, we planned on having that this weekend. That has been canceled, not only for the weather, but also because of the COVID-19 situation. So no more star parties either. We're canceling those for the foreseeable future. But if you do want to go out to the dark sky site, if it's a nice night and a small group wants to go out, that's not a problem. It shouldn't be an issue. Separate yourselves out a little bit. Just be careful. If you're showing any signs of illness, if you have a sore throat, body aches, running a fever, please don't go. Don't be a hero. Stay home, self-quarantine, make sure you're okay. Take care of yourself first. And again, be considerate of others who, they may not be ill, they may be young, but they may have relatives with who are immunocompromised or have conditions, and if they have the virus, even if they're not showing symptoms, they can be contagious and they can bring it home. So, virtual meeting. Let's try this again for April. I'm going to go ahead and try in April to have more of a presentation. Fred has offered to present. However, he's not sure he'll be able to get everything done. If not, I will try to have a backup. I have a presentation on Mesoamerican astronomy. We might try that if Fred's not able to, or if we don't have anything else going on. It's a very interesting presentation that I did before. It is specifically about how the Mayans used astronomy in order to run their kingdom. And then about after the Mayan collapse, how that knowledge of astronomy spread out among the Native Americans in the Southwest, the Anasazi, and even into Cahokia. So it's kind of interesting, and worst case, we'll bring that up, and I'll do a presentation on that. For future meetings and presentations, if one of our club members has anything interesting they'd like to talk about, if they have a trip that they took, a trip that they're about to take, new technology that they're trying, a new telescope, new equipment, anything that they would like to talk about, please let us know. You can let Ed Gill, our vice president, know, and we can pencil you in, schedule you for a certain time whenever you're ready. Treasurer's report. At this time, we talk about how much money we've got in the bank and what we've spent it on, and if we're planning on doing any big expenditures. So right now, we've got $54,798 in the bank, and out of that, $8,800 is in the checking account, and almost $46,000 in the savings account. For the savings account, we had a whole $3.66 deposited as interest from February to yesterday. And for the checking account, we had $210.88. Of that, $150 was a donation. Thank you very much. And the rest of it was from Amazon Smiles. So if you would like to support our club, you can sign up for Amazon Smiles, and a portion of whatever you purchase using the URL smiles.amazon.com comes back to our club. It's not a whole lot of money, but every little bit counts. And we had $60-something coming from that. Oh, and the withdrawal, sorry. $1,642 for withdrawals. I believe that was to our insurance company. So we have to pay insurance on the dark sky sites for liability purposes and for the star parties. So, club business. At this point, we talk about any announcements from the board members. We go over any member announcements, and seeing how there's nobody around to say anything, we can jump to the chat. Let's see, is anyone... I'm actually looking at the YouTube chat right now. Does anybody have any questions in the chat? There's a bit of a delay in the broadcast, so it may take a couple moments for someone to write something and come up with something, but we can still go further and bring it up. Let's see. What's next? Okay, usually this is meeting adjourned. So we're done with the meeting, and at the UNT Health Sciences Center, we have to be out of there by 9 o'clock, or security comes and throws us out on our ears. So we adjourn, and everyone kind of peters out and goes home. We don't have to do that right now, so we can continue to do something, but I don't really have a whole lot to talk about. I don't really have a presentation to go over. On Sunday, we did a test run, and we were able to tweak some things that had gone wrong. Hopefully this time audio levels sound good, the video quality is good, and we can try for next month and see what we can do. Any other questions coming through? I don't see any questions, so I think we're done. I think we've been on about almost a half hour now, so yeah, this is not a good situation to be in. I had really hoped that we'd be able to do this as something fun, something interesting, and not something that's a necessity based on something that was out of our control. But nonetheless, here we are in my dining room studio. So I'm Chris Moidnitsky. I'm the president of the Fort Worth Astronomical Society. And I guess we're signing off for now. And hopefully I will see all of you in a few months. And you'll see me hopefully in 1 month for our April meeting. Thank you very much and good night.